Welcome to 123 Minimize with Jody and Linnea, the podcast where we discuss easy minimalism for busy moms. Whether you're a new mom in need of practical decluttering tips or an experienced parent seeking simplified routines, you've come to the right place. I'm Jody, wife and full-time working mom of 4. In 2017, I founded the Minimalist Mom Facebook group, now with over 270,000 members. My passion is creating a simple, healthy, and happy home where my family can thrive.
I'm Linnea, a homeschooling mom of 4. In 2021, my family and I sold our house, downsized to a 36-foot travel trailer RV, and embraced minimalism. Living with less has been liberating, and I'm thrilled to share tips and experiences to help you simplify your life. Whether you're sitting down, getting stuff done, or lacing up your walking shoes, welcome to the 123 Minimize podcast.
In today's episode, I will continue to interview Linnea, who lives full-time in her RV with her family of 6. If you want to listen to parts 1 and 2, you can catch those on our podcast channel. So how much would you say that you boondock?
Before we hit the road, we thought we were going to boondock a lot, especially out west, where there's a lot of BLM land, which stands for Bureau of Land Management. It's just land owned by the government that you can camp on for free, legally, anywhere on BLM land. You know, we'd been doing all the research and watching lots of videos. The mistake that we made was we were watching videos of these 20-something married couples that had no kids.
Yeah.
Boondocking out for weeks on end. But as it turns out, a family of 6 with our size trailer has smaller tanks than some of the fifth wheels do.
Okay.
So for us, we really can't handle it for more than a few days at a time because it's a lot of work and our tanks fill up really fast, even if we're being really conservative. So any water we use for washing our hands, brushing our teeth, cooking, anything that goes into the sink or the shower has to be stored. You can't dump it on the ground. So You either have to not use hardly any water, or once they're full, then you can't, there's nothing you can do. You have to go and dump somewhere.
Sure.
So, and then the black tank is separate, and that's the toilet. And that one for us, we can go about 5 nights max before that one needs to be taken care of. And there's not a whole lot you can do to be conservative there.
Yeah.
Except maybe putting the toilet paper in the garbage instead of in the tank. We do that. But other than that, it is what it is.
So when you are boondocking, when you say you need to take care of the tanks, are there places around this land where you could go and dump it, or do you really need to go to another campsite?
That is one option, a campsite, or some towns have places. Maybe they're a travel stop or a gas station, some random dump stations that are around. But usually the boondocking sites are very remote.
Okay.
So to get to a dump station from where you are is probably a ways away.
How would you find that out?
Right. You can just Google it, but
like
also
dump station
dump
near me?
station. Yep. They're called dump stations. But our app that we use to find campgrounds, that's Campendium, that app also has dump sites listed on it. So you do have to do your research. And, you know, to clarify, boondocking is where you camp without any hookups whatsoever. You just be like out in the woods or out in
a field,
you know,
or something.
Very remote places. So it's not a campground. You just kind of find a spot to set up.
Yeah.
And so you have to bring your own water for cooking, drinking, flushing, any source of water that you want. And you have to have your own source of electricity. And you have to be self-contained. So like we said, all water, used water and everything has to be stored in your rig.
Okay.
So that's what boondocking is. And so therefore, you know, you're not taking showers. So you have to sponge bathe and you're not doing laundry. So you either don't do laundry or you go to a laundromat if there is one nearby. So I have met some retired folks who are just a couple and they're living in a larger rig and they can boondock for up to 18 days.
Wow.
But that would never work for us right now with our setup with 6 of us.
Yeah.
So we were a little disappointed because we were very excited about it. I mean, it's free and it's so cool. Some of the boondocking sites are spectacular.
Yeah.
You can't get it in a campground.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I mean, out west, you're surrounded by cool red rocks of all kinds of formations, or you're right on the edge of, like we stayed at one in Wall, South Dakota, right on the edge of the Badlands. Like you're on the edge of the cliff overlooking the Badlands, seeing the sun rise and set over the Badlands.
Yeah.
It was spectacular, but very windy.
Sure.
Very, very windy. Actually, we were going to stay 3 nights and we ended up leaving on after the second night. Because we couldn't sleep.
Oh, so windy.
At night, because it was rocking the whole trailer. And the way our trailer was parked was exactly opposite the wind. So it was just hitting the side of our trailer. But that site is, I mean, it's really cool. So that's the benefit of boondocking, really. It's cheaper and there's some really cool places that you can stay. But for us, we don't do it that often. It just ends up being a lot of work and get really exhausted at the end of it.
Yeah.
Even if it's only 3 nights, we're just so done by the end.
Yeah.
So ready for full hookups where we can just pull a lever and dump our tanks right into the ground.
Right.
Without having to go anywhere.
Yeah. Right. Do you have solar power?
We do. We did buy some solar panels. Ironically, we've only used them once. Probably because we're not boondocking like we thought we would.
Yeah.
And we do have a generator. So basically what ends up happening is we run our generator during the day and have our battery pack plugged in so it's charging. And then at night we plug into the battery because a lot of places, I mean, it's proper etiquette to turn your generator off at night.
Okay.
Because it's loud. So 10 p.m. usually, or some campgrounds have a very strict, like, certain time. But it's usually about 10 p.m. you need to turn it off. It might be fine. Like our fridges and stuff, if we don't open them, they might be okay if it's not hot outside. But if it's hot or if it's cold, you need a fan or AC or the heater. You need to be able to run stuff. So we use our battery to run all of that at night. And so we just never had a real reason to use the solar panel, but it was a great backup in case we ran out of fuel or something happened to our generator. So this past spring, we were staying somewhere it was a campground, but it was a rustic campground, so they did not have electricity. And we were like, well, let's just try the solar panels out to see if we can save some money on fuel for the generator, which we did buy a converter kit, so our generator actually can run on either propane or gas. We usually run on propane, which saves a lot of money. But anyway, so we decided to try them out, and they worked really slick. They were really easy to set up. We just put them on our roof, hooked them up to our battery. It wasn't like enough to really give us like all day and all night power.
Sure.
For what we need working from home and charging all devices that the kids use and everything like that, as well as running, fans or AC or different things like that. So AC is a big one. If you're just don't ever boondock when it's hot.
Yeah.
Because you can't. You don't have enough power. Even with a generator, it's hard to run AC. I mean, I just don't do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the solar panels are great. And I'm really glad we have them because, like I said, if we are boondocking and we run out of fuel or something, as long as it's not super cloudy or we're not parked in the shade, we can use those. But they're portable. So, I mean, we could move it. Set them out. They're like blankets.
Yeah.
So we could put them wherever if we needed to. It's just more work, more setup, more,
Yeah.
If it gets windy or stormy, we've got to take them down.
Yeah. So what would you say are the biggest cons to this lifestyle?
Well, my husband's biggest con is being so far away from family and friends.
Yeah.
And I would say that my biggest con would be rainy days or cold days when we can't be outside. Mike's close runner-up is having to dump tanks.
Yeah, yeah.
You do it because you have to, but it's, it can get old after a while.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have on-site hookups, like sewer hookup in your site. Then it's even more work because you have to use the honey wagon or you have to drive somewhere. Yesterday, he was dumping our tank and the hose exploded on him.
Oh, wow.
Thankfully, it was at the end, so it wasn't like a lot, but yeah, fun times.
Yeah. Usually we don't have to think about dealing with that twice. Like, that's too bad.
Yeah.
And what would you say are your biggest pros?
I know that my husband's biggest pro is to spend quality time with his family, with his kids and wife, and enjoying the outdoors. He absolutely loves to hike and chop things.
Yeah.
My favorite is definitely experiencing learning with my kids.
Yeah.
All the museums and national parks and all of those experiences. And the close runner-up for me definitely is being somewhere warm in the winter. Especially when there's a pool. We stayed at one place that had a pool and a hot tub. And I would just get to sit there and I'd bring my laptop and do my work with my feet in the hot tub. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Those are wonderful pros.
Actually, the last time we boondocked, the most recent time that we boondocked, was at a spot near the Grand Canyon. And the reason we chose this site was we had a short time frame to be in the Grand Canyon. And the campground we had originally picked was about an hour and a half drive just to the entrance of the Grand Canyon. And since we had such a limited time, we thought, well, let's just think about boondocking. There's lots of places. So we found a spot that was like 3-minute drive to the entrance. And the Grand Canyon National Park is huge. So even when you get in at the entrance, you still have to drive a ways to get to the spots you want to see. So we were just like, 1 or 2 nights. So we had about enough water and propane. It was cold still overnight. The temps were pretty low. So propane was how we were heating ourselves, for heat. And we have a generator that we use during the day when we're boondocking. And we charge up a battery that we have, and that runs overnight to keep our fridges going and our furnace and stuff like that. So we were planning to be there just for a couple of days. And it's usually not that big of a deal. If we decided to stay longer and we were running out of water, we'll just go get some, But this particular day, we went to the Grand Canyon. We saw the Grand Canyon for the first time. It was really cool. And we were able to go back the next day, go twice, which was the benefit of being nearby. But then as we were leaving the Grand Canyon, our truck fuel injectors went out. So we got stuck in the parking lot at the Grand Canyon in early spring.
So you did not have your travel trailer.
Right.
You had the travel trailer parked.
Yes.
In the Grand Canyon boondocking?
It was nearby. It was close to the entrance.
Okay, and then you put the truck to go in and see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so our truck it was unusable. So we were stuck in the parking lot, and it's a long story, so I won't tell the whole thing, but basically what ended up happening was we were stranded in this boondocking site, and we were almost out of water. And there was no one around. I mean, it was very remote. So it kind of scarred me a little as far as wanting to boondock.
Yeah.
We did, everything worked out. There was some other full-time RVers that we had recently met, and they happened to be in the area. Well, I say in the area, they were an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
But through social media, she saw that we were stuck and came and helped. She towed us actually to a campground nearby. So that was amazing. It was a whole story by itself. But the whole experience of being trapped there, boondocking, and not having a way to go get more water and propane, stuff like that.
Because your truck was at a mechanic.
Our truck was stuck. We actually had to wait like 24 hours to get a mechanic.
Sure. Because
it was such a remote place in the national park. And it was early in the spring and not a lot was open because it was still cold.
Sure.
So, it was all part of the adventure, but I definitely was like, I don't want to boondock after that experience. Right. I'm sure we will again at some point, but...
So, on that topic, do you guys pay a membership to any kind of like a AAA or all those other things that exist with different insurance plans so that you can call somebody for like RV repair?
Right. Yeah, so we, our insurance does have all of that. But I think the reason it was so difficult was just our location.
Yeah.
So the tow trucks and the mechanics were so far away from where we broke down, and we were inside a national park.
Yeah.
And it was early. Like if it had been summer, I think the national park maybe would have had, there actually is, I think in the village inside, there's mechanics.
Okay.
But they weren't open yet because it was so early in the year.
Yeah.
So I think that was like a combination of things there. But our insurance does have towing and roadside assistance and all of that. But it was, took 24 hours to get a tow out of the Grand Canyon.
So do you have specific insurance for your travel trailer?
Yes.
In addition to your vehicle?
Yes.
And the towing assistance is through the same company, so...
Actually, our deal is separate.
Okay.
But they both have
that kind of coverage.
Yeah.
Okay, and how did you go through like researching the best insurance for being that like full-time RV? Is it different than someone who's just going for a couple weekends in the summer?
Yeah. Yes. Now there are better options. For instance, if your RV breaks down, it's your house.
Yeah.
So some plans will cover a hotel stay while your RV is in the shop.
Okay.
Things like that. So they do exist now. I think just a handful of years ago they didn't, but now that there's so many people doing this, they have those options now. So
yeah, because I've heard that when people are researching it, if you get like an RV where it's the vehicle,
right,
and then it breaks down, your house is at the shop.
Right.
Where are you? Versus if you have the truck
Right.
with the travel trailer, your truck is at the shop,
Right.
but you could be at a campsite.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you may need to rent a vehicle and stay in a hotel if they're all in one.
Right.
Right. Yeah, depending on what type of rig you have.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of the pros and cons of the different types of rigs.
Yeah.
And if you get a Class A, you got everything's all in one. So that's part of weighing out your options in the beginning. What matters most to you in those breakdown scenarios. Not like if it happens, because it will happen.
Yeah.
It will. Don't lie to yourself and say that it won't. Because it will.
Right.
Every single RVer has either the truck or their trailer. Something. The leaf springs, the tires. We had our truck transmission went out, our fuel injectors, our alternator. I mean, the list is long, and it's been 2 years for us. So and
when you use it so much, things are going to break. I mean,
right. It's just like a house. You have regular maintenance and stuff breaks. It's just more inconvenient because you can't move on with your life until it gets fixed.
Yeah.
Because you're on the side of the road.
Yeah. It's more of an emergency. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you manage your budget and expenses with traveling extensively, being that if you're in one town all the time, you kind of grasp how much the groceries are, you kind of get your expenses for your utilities because nothing's really changing. Maybe in the winter, heating would make a bill higher versus the summer or whatever. But you're going all over the country where gas prices vary, food prices vary, unexpected situations. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that? Do you have like funds where there's car repair kind of coming up or where you're earmarking money? How do you handle that? Mm-hmm.
Right. That's a good question. I will say I have a much better handle on it now after having done this for 2 years.
Yeah.
At the beginning, we just had a really big savings account that was for emergencies or for unexpected things. We knew there would be breakdowns and stuff, but it's hard to know what to expect. So, but now I kind of get into the flow of understanding where we're going, and we either just know or we research what expenses are going to be. Groceries and fuel. I mean, you can pretty easily find that information out. So for budgeting for like fuel and groceries, and then for campgrounds and things, a lot of that is done ahead of time. So I have a pretty good idea. So like right now I'm looking at booking stuff for like 3 to 4 months from now. So I always kind of have a good idea ahead of time. Also for us, we spend our summers at home with family. So we're mooch stocking, which is just a silly name. That means we're just staying with them and they're not charging us to stay with them, and not driving around a lot. Because our goal here in the summer is to be with family. So we save a lot on fuel and campgrounds in the summer, and that helps us to have a little more for when we do travel the rest of the year.
So when you're staying with family, you have electricity that's hooked up.
Yes.
Do you have water coming in constantly and water going out constantly?
Yes. So when we've stayed with friends and family, it just depends on their preference of what they are okay with.
Okay.
But we have never had anyone say that they had a problem with us draining our gray water onto the ground. We just put a hose way out as far as we can, whatever direction they want us to. And so that actually is very luxurious.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy. The hose is just there, and then whenever we just open the thing, whenever it's full. And
that's like dishwater.
dish, showers, hand washing. Yep. Anything that goes into the sink or shower.
And honestly, like my grandma would never put dishwater down the drain. She had a dish basin and she put it on the flowers outside. Like she just didn't want to waste. Right? And so the mindset of that, like you wash your hands and now this water is as bad as sewer water. So you put it in the sewer.
Yep.
She would think it's wasteful.
Yeah.
Her life did not start out with running water.
Yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I will tell you that having clean water, running water, and having an easy way to dispose of it is something I will never, ever, ever take for granted ever again in my life.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much water we use.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, even when we're being super conservative.
Yeah.
So yes, at our family's, we're just hooked up by electric and hooked up with a garden hose. And then every 5 days or so, we dump our black tank into our honey wagon, which is a silly name for a big cart that you dump your stuff into, and it has wheels on it, and you can carry it or hook it up to the back of your truck, your hitch, and drive it to their sewer, and we just open it and dump it in. So we have had a place where we weren't able to do that. We had to drive it into town.
Yeah, if somewhere on city sewer, they wouldn't necessarily have access to open up a sewer.
Right.
So that would be a scenario.
Yes.
It would be more, it's easier if they live in the country with their own septic system.
Right.
Okay. It's good to clarify, right?
Yeah. Every place is different. And that's the thing. That's the thing that makes it hard at first. There's so much to learn.
Yeah.
Every single place you stay is different. Different hookups, different scenarios. There's got to be at least 20 different scenarios of setup where you are and how it affects your day-to-day life. It's unbelievable.
And you kind of went into this cold turkey, right? Like you didn't rent one for a long time and learn. You just, the first night you owned it.
Yep.
And there you were.
Yes.
So how did you learn it all?
Oh, well, just by doing it. It was It was intense, though. I definitely recommend, if you're thinking about doing this, if you can, buy your RV ahead of time and take some trips in it and move into it in your driveway. We couldn't, because our driveway was super steep, and there was no way. So it just wasn't an option for us. But that would have been so much better. There's so much to learn. If you've never, ever taken a trip in an RV, there's so much to learn. And it was intense. The first 3 months were, I don't ever want to do that again.
Yeah.
It was really intense. And we were moving a ton. That was the other mistake I made. I should have booked a place that was for 2 months. I thought it would take us just a couple of weeks to move into such a small little space, and then we'll be on the road. And no. So that's the other thing. If you're going to do this, I would say find a place and book it. Stay there for a month or two while you can get used to get settled and organized and figure out how to do daily life. How do you dump the tanks? How do you everything. There's just so much to learn.
Yeah, that's really good advice for somebody who is thinking about it but never went camping in one.
Yeah.
And is thinking about transitioning.
Yeah.
To try it out first and ease into it.
Yeah. The other thing, we got this tip, and I'm so thankful. They suggested to us that we stay near our storage unit for the first couple of months. And that was really good advice because there was a lot of shifting that went on, figuring out what we could fit and what we couldn't fit. And we had some stuff that were just like, I'm sick of moving this thing from here to there and it's in my way. I'm putting this in storage. I don't need it.
Yeah.
Or I'm done with it. Let's get rid of it. But, and then there was a few things that were like, oh, if we had this certain item that would work well for this problem we're having in this little area. So we'd go back and get it from storage. That was really good advice.
Good. So how have you handled, or have you ever experienced where you were in an area and it got below freezing? Because, a lot of people, they winterize their camper and they put it away for the winter and it's all with antifreeze and it's sitting there.
Right.
They're not taking it out and, until spring.
Yeah.
But have you ever come across where now it dropped down and things froze?
Yes, definitely. I didn't think we ever would, because the whole benefit of RVing is that you move where it's warm. But various different reasons, even some of the places that we, like destinations that we went to, like on the Gulf in Texas, for instance, there was, in January, there was one night where it got down to like 20.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it was just one night and it got warm again. But yes, we've definitely had that. So we do have a heated water hose.
Okay.
We also, you can drip your faucets. That helps. You can also open the cupboard doors underneath, like under your sink, to let the warm air get in there a little better to help with the pipes. We also have done it where we just unhooked water and drained the tanks out overnight, because we're not using it overnight. We just fill a couple buckets if somebody had to go to the bathroom and needed to flush. We just have a couple buckets of water sitting in the shower that we could grab and use hand sanitizer instead of washing your hands. But it was just overnight, so we've done that a couple times.
So staying aware of the temperature that's coming at you so you can go through all those steps is important.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, we're like hyper aware of the weather.
Okay.
Because we feel the weather so much more in every aspect. If it's windy, if it's raining, it's loud.
Yeah.
The wind will push the trailer around. If it gets hot, I mean, there's just, we have an air conditioner, but it just doesn't keep up as well. Like we can feel it, the walls get hot. So just like, taking precautions, making sure make sure we turn the AC on before it gets too hot. And, we're just very hyper aware of it. When we go to sleep at night, we have to see what the lows are and make sure that we've got, is the furnace on, or does everyone have a blanket handy, things like that. So
have you experienced hail or tornadoes or any hurricanes so far?
We have not been in any hurricanes, thankfully. I think if one was coming, we would definitely leave. Yeah. There's been a couple of times where severe storms were coming through that were like severe thunderstorms. I don't think there were any actual tornadoes nearby. But one time we were at a campground in Missouri, I think, and it was lots of trees all around us. So our main concern was that a tree would fall on our trailer.
Which happens sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
So in that instance, we just hopped in the truck and drove we were right by a town. So we just drove into town and found a place to park that we felt was safe. I did just see a tip. Someone said you can find a brick car wash.
Sure.
Pull in there if you're driving with
in like
your
a
RV.
Tornado.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then one other time we were at a campground and we were watching the weather. We knew it was coming. So we just went to the safe place in the campground. Was the bathroom. They had like an inner part. And it was there, there were a lot of trees down and stuff around the area, but we were fine. Everything was fine. So we have not experienced hail with our trailer.
Good.
So I'm thankful. We did have some friends who had a hailstorm in South Dakota that broke through their skylight in their shower.
Yeah.
So again, nothing catastrophic. They just had to replace it. It's definitely loud. The rain is super loud. And acorns, oh my goodness. If you park under trees, so many campgrounds, little acorns or little nuts.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 all day long, all night long.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of noise, that reminds me of another question. When we go camping, it's tense. And all night, it's car door slamming, people laughing, kids running around. It's like 2 a.m. and they're still going, unless it rains, and then everybody is forced to go to bed. And then early in the morning, you have the same thing. And so it's not quiet. I mean, some campgrounds are better than others, depending on how crowded it is, or if we're really close to the tent, it's really close to RVs, then I hear generators all night. So how is it different with that kind of noise of people partying it up because they're on their little week vacation of the summer?
I will say it depends on the campground.
Okay.
In Minnesota, I have noticed weekends and campgrounds they're very recreational. I mean, people are in the freaking cold winter all winter long. So in the summer, it's just all about, recreation. Yeah. So definitely some of the noisiest campgrounds we've stayed in on Minnesota weekends in the summer. But other places of the country, like in the South where there's a lot of snowbirds, the atmosphere is more of a community of people living there long term, like all winter long, month after month. Yeah. And it's not so much about we're on a camping for the weekend.
Let's drink around the fire
Right.
until 2 a.m. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's different. That doesn't mean there isn't noise. Some campgrounds are really close to a highway or a train or an airport.
Sure.
So there can be like road noise and stuff. We stayed at one that had a lot of ATVs. There were a lot of retired people, so they would kind of run on a different schedule than us.
Yeah.
We kind of stay up late and sleep in, and they go to bed early and wake up early.
5 a.m.
So
Yeah.
they'd be outside driving their loud ATVs around and, chalking it up with each other and stuff.
Yeah.
And when we first got there, I was like, oh man, putting my earplugs in every morning, but after a while, I just got used to it.
Yeah.
It became like a part of the normal rhythm. And we stayed there for 2 months and we got to know the people. And by the end, when we left, I was sad when I didn't hear them, because then it was like when I heard those ATVs, I knew it was our friends, all the sweet people that we've met. I think you just have to, that is one thing we look at on the reviews. We look because people will say this was noisy. There was a road nearby, or there's a train that goes by every 20 minutes all night long. So we just won't. If we're going to be there, if it's just one night, and we were like, oh, well.
Yeah. So how has living in an RV full-time impacted your family dynamic and relationships?
I believe that we are a lot closer now. That was part of the reason that we wanted to do this, was to spend quality time together. There was a time when my husband was driving bus and working a graphic design job full time. So he would get up and be at work by 6 a.m. to drive the morning route, and then he'd leave from there to drive to work and work 10 to 6 or whatever it was for 8 hours, and get home just with like an hour to see the kids before they went to bed. And it was hard for the kids. They were little, and so even though it's challenging to work from home when there's so much chaos going on in one little small space, he does a really good job. And I just love that the kids can wake up in the morning and go right over and give him a hug. And then, he gets to work, but he's there. And he's able to, in the evenings, we're able to go for a hike or go explore and see something new together, and on the weekends. And so, and the kids, they do everything together. So they're forming bonds that I hope will be good and strong for the rest of their lives. There is a flip side. I mean, if we don't have intentional alone time, we can go kind of crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
And not just the adults, the kids too.
Yeah.
Before we were full-time RVers, I had a regular music group that I would go to every week. And it was just built in, so I didn't have to think like, oh, should I schedule something? I just went once a week. And so not having that was just different for me. I have to think. And, sometimes what does that look like? You're out somewhere you've never been before. You don't know anyone. So what do you do?
Right.
So just having to get creative and try to find different things. So I've done that. I'll go for a run, go for a walk. Maybe if we're in a resort with a pool, I'll go to the pool by myself. Or I'll just go to the store and be by myself shopping for groceries or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Mike will take the kids somewhere and I will stay home by myself. And so those have all been good options. Or taking the kids out one-on-one so they can have some quiet and specialized time with one of us.
Yeah. So similar to what people do in their homes as far as like intentionally
Right.
trying to be alone or
Yep.
for a little bit to regroup.
Right.
I know after we've been on a long road trip, when we get home, the kids, they all just like disperse into their rooms. They're done. We're done being cramped up within feet of each other, and everybody just needs space, which is harder when they don't really have their own room. They have their own like bed.
Oh, there's no your own space of any sort or kind.
Yeah.
There just isn't. But thankfully, like I said, we are outside a lot. So the kids can go. I mean, there's options, you can go out into the yard, and sometimes that's best. You're out in nature and it's quiet out there, and we find ways, but it is, that's one of the biggest challenges. We're really on top of each other all the time. And so those people who need more of that quiet time, they suffer the most if we're not intentional about helping them get their time.
Making sure it happens. So have you made any modifications or added anything to your travel trailer to make it more comfortable?
Yes. I think I talked about our laundry remodel that we did. That's my most favorite one. We also took out the kitchen table that came, they were just like pedestal. There were two of them on a pedestal, and the tabletop was like, I don't know what material, sort of, it was slippery.
Yeah.
And they weren't real stable. They were made so you could unscrew them and take them down when you're traveling. Whenever you put the slides in, we'd have to do that. But they were just horrible. You put your plate and it would just slide right onto your lap. So
Yeah.
we got rid of those and got a better table. In the kids' bunk room, we also remodeled to create a little bit more space for storage. So we lifted one of the bunks up higher to create space underneath for a bookshelf for the kids and a little bit bigger storage for their toys and clothes. So that was a good upgrade for the kids to have a little more elbow room in their bedroom.
So how many states have you been to?
I think we're up to 18. Something like that.
What's your favorite state so far?
Oh boy. I think actually I really enjoy Texas. Probably because we've spent some time by some of the cities. So I've had more of that social interaction. We have family that lives there. We've spent time with them. But we've also spent time south on the Gulf Coast and enjoyed that. And we also spent time in the Guadalupe Mountains National Park. So it's been a diverse experience for us. There was another hike we did that was really spectacular. It was called Enchanted Rock. It's a pink nomadic rock, which I think is just like a solitary mountain, very rounded off on the top. And you can climb all the way up to the top and sit up there. And we went up and saw the sunset. We saw a porcupine on the way up, and it was just so beautiful. So I don't know. There's so many beautiful things. Utah is amazing. Very, very different than the Midwest.
Yeah.
Just so many things to see there. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
So Utah, I really enjoyed as well.
So you mentioned a porcupine. Do you ever worry about black bears, grizzlies, all the different kinds of snakes?
You know, I think our family has been pretty good at learning about animals and hazards like that and taking the precautions that are necessary. We love animals and nature so much that it's almost more of the excitement of wanting to see them. For instance, in Arizona, my son was so excited to see scorpions. And he bought a black light so that we could see them after dark. And we were there in the winter. We didn't see one.
Sure.
Actually, we saw one exoskeleton that was left behind. So we saw that. And even the snakes, like, boy, we want to see them. We just don't want to step on them. But we haven't had any scary experiences like that. We wanted to see alligators as well, and we haven't seen those yet. We're hoping to do that in Florida. No, I mean, in Yellowstone National Park, we saw a black bear, and we really wanted to see a grizzly, but we didn't get that chance. So I don't think we've ever felt afraid in our campgrounds or anywhere that we're staying, any real risk of danger from animals.
Yeah.
So there was a rattlesnake at one of the places we stayed in Arizona, but we didn't see it. We just heard from someone else that they saw one, and my son was disappointed that he didn't see it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's fun to see wildlife. I don't ever want to see them on a long hike, where I'm far away from other people.
Yes.
And there's some places, the Great Smoky Mountains are supposed to have a lot more bears. Yeah, I think Yellowstone has so many tourists that it's like hard to... I saw a baby bear once after it burned down. When we were kids, Yellowstone burnt. And that was right when we went there on a family trip. It smelled so bad. But we went back with the kids and also didn't see any bears. Like, heard of someone seeing a bear, but it was just hordes of people. So,
yeah. We always hike with walking sticks. My husband's real big on the safety and stuff. And my kids are into it too. They have all these like survival handbooks, and they love reading about what happens if you do this and how do you, if there's a bear, what do you do? And so they love that kind of stuff. So we're really into it. And not that we don't ever, there was one time we were hiking in northern Minnesota, and we just got a late start, and we were like, oh, let's make it. And we made it out to our destination, and the sun was setting, and then we're like, oh, now we have to hike back in the dark, and there's wolves and stuff, So
and there's some bear populations up there, depending on where you are. Yeah,
right. So it was some moments where I was like, looking around in the dark with my flashlight, but we never saw anything. So
right, yeah, and typically they're trying to run away from you if you're loud enough. So that's a wrap for today's episode, which completes our 3-part series about Linnea and her family of 6 living full-time on the road in an RV.
We hope you enjoyed delving into this topic with us and found a few tips that might help you on your journey. We want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our amazing listeners for tuning in. Your support and curiosity are what keeps us going. For more tools and resources to help you on your journey toward a simpler life, visit our website, www.123minimize.com. If you found today's episode valuable, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you never miss an opportunity to explore new ideas and perspectives. And if you're inclined, leave us a review, which helps to spread the word to others who might enjoy the journey too. As always, feel free to connect with us on Facebook or Instagram to share your thoughts, suggestions, or just to say hi. Until next time, stay motivated. Take care.